Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. In this week's show, we're going to recap Fury Grappling 3. We're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming Who's Number 1 card, and talk a little bit about Fight to Win. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, the co-host.
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing it good. We're doing it remote this week as well because everything is weird here in Maryland, being safe, and it's easier this week. How's your week going so far?
Not too bad. It's still early in the week. It's not even Monday yet. So.
Yeah, so we're doing it on Sunday right now. Had an interesting Thursday card. We'll get into that in a little bit here on Fury Grappling. Let's move into a little bit of news. Not a ton of news. It's been a pretty quiet week. It was the New Year yesterday. But we do have a full card for Flow Grappling's Who's Number 1, which I thought was very interesting. Main eventing that, we have Craig Jones versus Pedro Mourinho. Interesting. We'll talk about Craig Jones' match this weekend. It's cool to see him coming back. We're going to preview this more as we get closer to the event, but we got the full card lineup today. We have Ty Rotolo versus Levi Jones-Leary. We have Nick Rodriguez versus Elder Cruz. We have Tubby Aliquin versus Brienne St. Marie. We have Jacob Couch versus Hassam Rita. And Esteban Martinez versus John Calistine. So I haven't seen Calistine in a while. It'd be interesting to see him on the Who's Number 1 stage. I think the last thing he was supposed to compete on was the Emerald City Invitational. Was it 2 or 1?
Was that the one that he was supposed to be the main event? And then the doctor left.
The doctor left.
Yeah,
and they did the main event of the tournament instead, and didn't do that super fight. There was him and Stingray.
I remember that. That was such a weird, shitty situation.
That was all around. I talked to a promoter about that, and it was on a bad situation all around. But hopefully, it doesn't happen again. So interesting lineups here. We're going to make our picks in a couple weeks. Probably not this next week's show, but the show after that, we'll do a big preview. Good matches. Looks like a really fun card. There's also some prelim matches that have been announced as well on a different page that I don't have up. We'll preview that. You have it up?
I can give it to you. It's it's pictures and their little handles. So it's Alexa Yanis versus Alexa Yanis. I was correct with that one. Versus, of course, my internet seems to die right as I try to.
Yeah, you have the satellite internet.
Jessica BJJ, who is Jessica Crane. Jessica Crane.
Yep, that'll be fun.
So we've seen Jessica Crane before.
Mm-hmm. On Who's Number 1.
And then it's Michael Pixley from Daisy Fresh.
Okay.
And he's going against
Deck Poppy.
And
then we have...
he doesn't have his name on his Instagram, so I don't know who Deck Poppy is.
And we have 2 more folks
and
as well.
He has a picture of him with his Naga belt, so...
Nice.
So if I had a Naga belt, I'd take a picture with it.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be... do you have a Naga belt?
No, I don't.
Okay. Gino Morelli. He's the Penn State wrestler guy that in his first match in ADCC, he put to sleep someone that we both know.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
At the trials.
First match of the day, like straight out the bat.
At trials or ADCC?
At trials.
At trials.
Yeah. Somebody we know. Anyway, and then he's going to go against Lemoy Anderson.
Nice.
Who's another, looks like he's a brown belt. He's from 3G. He's done Fight to Win a few times. He's a 10th Planet guy. So it's a newer people
should
coming
be a fun card. Those free prelims are on, I think, Facebook or YouTube, and then they have the rest of the card on Flow. Again, looking forward to that. We have a bit of a drought other than Fury here, so it'll be fun. Other than that, I don't think there's any other news going on this week. Oh, we do have news.
ADCC said that they're going to open up West Coast Trials for registrations on Tuesday.
That's the 4th.
Yes.
So the 4th, if you want to register for West Coast Trials, it will be in Vegas. It will be April 2nd and 3rd, 2022.
Yes. They haven't said much more than that.
No,
I mean, keep on saying that until they have it all straightened out. They're not saying more than that.
Yeah, they changed the location from Southern California to Vegas, where they're doing ADCC. But Mo talked about making that change and kind of wanting that change to make it a little more central for everyone anyway. And then with all the restrictions that are in California.
Yeah, I think it's more of a restriction issue.
Yeah. And so Vegas is a little more unrestricted in Nevada, so they're doing it there.
Yeah, why not?
Yep.
So it'd be fun.
It
I
should be.
have it marked on my calendar. I haven't like made the full decision to go.
I haven't made the
but
decision yet either. I want to, but
it's definitely there.
kind of just determines how everything turns out.
Yeah.
So
So
I have no other news. You have any other news this week?
I don't think so.
We still
I don't
don't
think anything else.
We
like,
still don't have
exciting.
news on Fight to Win where it's going to stream yet. We'll preview the card a little later in the show, but that's kind of news as well. We're not sure since Fight to Win has ended their deal with Flow after 5 years. We're not sure whether they're going to resign or where they're going to be broadcast, but there's an event this weekend. That's other kind of news that we have. But let's move into Fury, because Fury was a lot of fun. It happened on Thursday. We rarely get a Thursday night card, but I think it was trying to avoid New Year's, which makes sense.
And it was also an early card, which was great.
I loved it. It was like a 2.5 hour event, which is, I think, the perfect length of time for a grappling card. I was happy to sit. I watched it from the beginning, the Jillian Roberts match, all the way through the Danielle Kelly match. Really happy with it. Promoters, if you're running events, I think 2.5 hours is a phenomenal length of time for a card. Be that as may. I liked it. Where do you want to start with this one? There's one match I want to start with.
Okay.
I want to start with Nick Rodriguez.
Okay.
Nick Rodriguez, rear naked choked Steve Mowry, a little over 5 minutes, 5.5 minutes. Not really shocking, but we just haven't seen Nick in a little bit here.
He was also significantly, or at least they were saying he was significantly smaller than the Steve Mowry guy, and he just like dragged him down.
It was like a big snap down off like the break.
It was a snap down, but I mean it was a well-timed snap down.
Yeah.
I mean, he went face down and Nicky Rod got right behind him, so
like really, really quickly. He just snapped, turned the corner, started getting his back. He got into his guard initially, and Steve tried to retain the guard, and then Nick Rodriguez did what we saw him do versus Yuri Simoes. He went to the body lock, and then immediately started high stepping the leg. Steve was never able to get the close side leg back into the guard. Nick Rodriguez kept pushing. His passing looks better and better. Again, we saw him do it versus Yuri Simoes, ADCC champion, world champion. A guy like Steve Mowry, who's a bigger guy than Rodriguez, and we haven't really seen him implement his passing versus bigger folks, but gets by quickly. He then sort of forces the turn. Steve Mowry tries to roll away, but Nick Rodriguez does a really good job of basking in the hands on the shoulders and the hip. Immediately gets to the back. And Steve Mowry does something cool here. He stands up. And we talked about this in the pre-show a little bit. At heavyweights, when guys do this and they base out and they stand up, like they made a commentary joke about Derek Lewis doing this.
yeah.
And what it does is most heavyweights either fall off the side or get shucked off over the top. And that's what Steve Mowry was looking to do. Nick Rodriguez took the back like he was a 145er.
Yeah, he did smooth.
It was beautiful. He nails his hips in. He gets below Steve Mowry's hips, and then he basically shelves himself up on the back. He gets the hooks in over and under low. He doesn't overcommit and try to get his shoulders to Mowry's shoulders. And then when Mowry falls back down, he's able to get the choke really quickly. But it was just such a cool moment to see Rodriguez like switching his hips sideways, getting under Mowry, getting to the back that way, and not getting shucked off like we see almost.
And he technically took his back. He did it technically well. He didn't do some kind of, I'm just going to use my brute strength and my force to get myself, where I need to go.
Yeah. Really great. Hey, I didn't learn a ton about Rodriguez here, but seeing him continue to use that body lock passing, I think will be interesting moving into ADCC. We've got a little under a year now before ADCC. We're definitely going to see Rodriguez in the plus 99 division. Very curious to see. Obviously, he's continuing to develop that. It's been cool to see his videos on B Team and on the Instagram of him developing. He's putting a lot of time in the room. They're doing a lot of wrestling. It's cool here. Cool to see him get a submission win. Where do you want to go next on the card?
We'll just go just go in order of the fights. So next was Clay Guida and Billy Quarantilo.
Yeah, Billy Quarantilo. Guida came out. I think we have covered Guida before. I think we covered him on the UFC quintet thing they did a couple years ago.
Did he have singlet?
No, I don't know. He came out. He was the only guy in this card that came out in wrestling shoes.
Okay.
And a singlet as well.
Yeah.
And just basically wrestled Billy Quarantilo. Wrestling. Quarantilo threw up a ton of stuff from his guard. Triangles, Guida would just pass out of. And just it was basically a triumph forward pressure through the guard of Guida, and Billy just continued to throw stuff up, but never really able to get anything super deep that Guida kind of didn't shuck off, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah, because he had a triangle at one point, and he just kind of shucked it off and then went right back into the guard.
Yeah. It was interesting he kind of shucked it and didn't, like, finish the pass.
No, he didn't. He just kind of went straight back where he started.
This card was very funny because we don't cover, on the show at least, a lot of MMA grappling and a lot of MMA fighters because the sport sort of diverged pretty significantly, and most MMA fighters can no longer hang with, like, top-level grapplers. It's like the sports are just too different now. It was fun to see Guida doing, and we'll talk about this a little later as well, to see Guida doing, like, what MMA fighters do, where it's like he kind of wants to be in the half guard because then he's controlling you on the bottom, and it's like the half
and
guard.
he just wants to sit there because he can drop bombs on your face.
And it's such an advantageous position to be in. And towards the end of the match, like, he shows that he can obviously pass. He locks up like a really tight arm triangle as time expires. I think that definitely seals him the match. He was definitely in control, even though Quarantilo was throwing up so much. But
he's a lot to handle. I mean, that's a lot of energy going at you all the time.
Clay Guida is a veteran. It was just cool to see.
I've heard he's always like that too.
Yeah, no, he's
in the training room. He's the same exact way. He's just constantly moving and doesn't stop.
Huge gas tank.
Yeah,
and you see that when he fights, and since forever. Watch. Want to see a good fight? Go watch Diego Sanchez versus Clay Guida. Like, damn, that was a good fight.
His hair drives me absolutely insane. Dude, it really does.
It's great.
Oh, and what were we gonna? We were gonna talk about something with the heel hook thing, because I don't think everybody knows the whole heel hook rule.
So
when it comes to Fury.
For the UFC fighters and for pretty much the whole card, because almost everyone on the card is either a Bellator fighter or a UFC fighter. There were no heel hooks. There's some discussion of if there were no leg locks. I think that was only the main event. But it seemed to me that they said there were no heel hooks. I think there might have been no leg locks as well. Like, I don't know, but it didn't ever come up, and that's odd in a professional grappling event.
What it said on the screen, like on the actual screen when they flashed up the rules, was no heel hooks. And when I went back and looked at the actual event page for the rules, because I went back to see how they said they were going to actually
the scoring criteria,
everything. Yeah. It says no heel hooks. It didn't say no leg locks.
Yeah.
But my assumption is maybe they just, no one wanted to really do a straight ankle.
Right.
I mean, what else?
You can kind of go to knee bar. We'll talk about this in the Craig Jones versus Sean Bradley match. That was a huge upset. Let's talk about. So that it was. This event scored like MMA scoring, like straight up, not standard grappling scoring. So submission attempts almost mean nothing in this rule set. It was all about essentially who's on top.
Positional control.
Yeah, positional control and being on top really is what the main criteria was for this kind of scoring. If you've watched a lot of MMA, like I have and like you have, Miranda, it was pretty evident. But it is. We are seeing less and less grappling events that implement MMA-style scoring and MMA-style judging.
Clay to win would have went by submission attempts, but Clay would have still won because the triangle at the end was probably the best submission, unless you count unless you count the triangle at one point. But he just kind of shucked it off. It wasn't, he kind
of defended it, but it was never deep. It was a triangle attempt. But it was never like a locked-in triangle that Guida had to escape. Guida would get up there, kind of shuck him off, and keep working. Again, not controversial in the decision. It was just interesting to see MMA fighters grapple under MMA scoring for a grappling contest. So I don't have much. I don't want to belabor this too much. Moving on, we have Joe Celeski getting a Reniki choke win over Donald Cerrone. 2 weeks in a row, Cerrone has gotten choked from the back by really good grapplers. Celeski impressed me here a lot. Like from the beginning, his ability to get off the bottom, to sweep Cowboy, get to his back, basically switch his hips. Again, a very similar way we saw Rodriguez do it in taking the back, getting over. Donald in this match, I'm not really sure what he wanted to do and what he was looking to do, because when he's on the bottom, he's just sort of framing away and he's not making a lot of effort to either retain or get under, or he's sort of just framing.
Yeah. And that was the one thing that I mentioned to you that I thought was a little weird, was the way that he was actually framing, because Cerrone wasn't using his hands He was using his forearms and his arms to frame up against Celeski and to kind of push away.
Well, he wasn't using the palms, and
he wasn't using his actual fingers.
Yeah, and this is something
he was using his forearms.
This is something that I used to do in MMA a lot when I used to grapple and do MMA. Was if you lean and post on someone with a hand, they immediately know where your hands are and they can just bomb on you. And so a lot of times you'll post open-handed like that so that if they lean back, you can start getting something in the way of like a strike coming in, or push them away, or push the strike away, or parry from the ground. And it's just not something that I remember seeing in a professional grappling match in forever. And you brought it up in the pre-show that I thought was really funny.
Because I didn't see it against Craig Jones when he went against Craig Jones.
But that was combat jiu-jitsu.
That was combat jiu-jitsu, and he was on the top, I think. Right? He was on the top most of the time with Craig.
Both.
Until Craig took it. But I mean, he was on the... It was a different setup than this match. He wasn't at any point, like, Craig took his back, and it was kind of over after Craig.
Right. He didn't spend a lot of time in side control versus this match he did. It was just an interesting thing to pick up on, that, like, oh yeah, he's not framing traditionally where you have the hand on the hip and the hand on the face. He had the forearms on the hip.
He wasn't using his hands to actually push against him or to keep him away. He was using his forearms to do so.
And
which, is effective for certain reasons, but there's also, your hands. It's why you have two hands.
And Celeski took his back with the relative quickness. Like, passing is really good, and then gets a rear naked choke. And there's not a whole lot else to the match, but it was an interesting thing to see Cowboy grappling more. I do like seeing him grapple more. He had a really fun match with Rafael Dos Anjos on Sug. I think we're definitely going to see Cerrone continue to.
And that was the Sug match that ended, but then didn't end.
Yeah, it was weird, and then they wanted to do it again, and Chael was like, "No, we're not doing it." And RDA and Cowboy were like, "No, fuck you, we're doing it again." Yeah. And they went, "Okay, guess we're doing it again." And Chael played promoter and was like, "I don't want this match to happen," and they did it anyway, and it was entertaining. The same thing happened. Donald won by armbar, but Cerrone's a fun guy to watch grapple, and I honestly. They keep referring to him as the future UFC Hall of Famer, which is definitely true. I think as he winds down his UFC career, I would definitely be interested in watching him continue to grapple, because I feel like we will see what we saw in like 2014 with him like every other weekend on grappling cards, because he'll take a late replacement fight, and so grappling I think is the perfect sport for that. It would be really cool to see him kind of continue to be super active in grappling if he wants to maintain that level of activity, because grappling, he can do that. So it was neat.
Yeah.
Let's move into the co-main event. Kind of a weird match, but not really a weird match. Sean Bradley defeats Craig Jones via decision. Sorry, Brady, not Bradley. This was a weird match. The commentary talked about it. Craig Jones talked about it. Sean Brady talked about it. Not a lot happened in the match. Craig Jones pulled guard, then kind of maintained a low half guard knee shield, and Brady sort of pushed like a Z guard, kind of pushed into pass, would kind of fence at the head. Craig Jones would kind of fence at the arm.
Yeah, he'd kind of reach over the back and try to grab the armpit on the far side. And he looked like he was attempting maybe to do some sort of Kimura, but it was more of, I think he wanted him to move more than actually get the Kimura from that position.
He wasn't like leaning over to I watched this match and I knew exactly what was happening. It's like, okay, Joe is not engaging super hard.
Sean.
Wrong match, yeah. Sean Brady is not engaging super hard into Craig Jones's guard, because then Craig Jones can counter it. He's also only passing on his knees, which if you plan for Craig Jones, like you always plan to pass on your knees. Historically, if you watch a bunch of Craig Jones matches, he will, I'm not going to use the word struggle, but he has more difficulty with people who will only pass on these. He's also in the Davi Ramos match, in other Polaris matches. We've seen it on Craig Jones matches with...
But you also don't have the issue of Craig Jones being able to reverse under you and grab one of your legs.
Yeah, because there were either no heel hooks or no leg locks here.
What?
There were either no heel hooks or no leg locks here. But Craig at no point even went for like he does a really, really great inverted knee bar, never entered for that. Never really, he didn't go for anything during the match. I
expected him to try to take his back, but he wasn't getting an underhook on the side to pass. He had an overhook the whole time.
But also it's the thing where Brady wasn't really engaging super hard where you can shuck them by. He was always in that middle stance on his knees pushing forward. So if you start to go for it, then they get to pass and they get an opportunity at that straight side knee cut, which is exactly what Brady was looking for. And so they both got locked into this, like, Brady's doing just enough on top where he's like not really like hammering into the guard with all his weight trying to bust through it, but he's not undercommitting either. And Craig was not willing to overcommit to allow for the pass or overcommit to like try to come underneath him. And so you got this weird match where nothing happened, and then Brady, because he's on top, because he's like looking to pass, wins a pretty clear MMA style decision over Craig Jones. It's interesting. I don't know. I didn't really have any takeaways from it aside from like, yep, Craig kind of got out game planned. And if you take the best heel hooker's tool away in jiu-jitsu, I don't really think Craig Jones will compete in another rule set that doesn't have heel hooks unless he does another quintet. But it was a weird match overall. I don't glean a lot from it. I don't glean a lot from Brady. I don't glean a lot from Jones. Just nothing happened in the match, and that was the match.
Yeah, I agree.
Super disappointed. I wish the match would have been more interesting, but even the commentary talked about, he goes, nothing happened. And Craig Jones in the post-fight, he goes, nothing happened. Like, neither of us got past each other's frames. That was the match. And it's like, okay, so sucks that it was boring.
If that's the way you're going to win, that's the way you're going to win.
Yeah, no, I mean, Brady did exactly. I mean, you're not going to out-grapple Craig Jones, so you have to win a tactical decision over him. And if you are going to have an MMA top pressure positional style scoring, this is exactly how you do that. Like, he maintained the top position. He didn't get swept. He didn't get taken over. He didn't get threatened. You win the decision. So, and Brady's an undefeated MMA fighter. You don't get undefeated by making tactical errors ever. Like, that's just, he played a very good tactical match. So, so the main event, we got Danielle Kelly versus Carla Esparza. Carla Esparza was a late replacement. We talked about this in the previous episode of the Grappling Rewind last week, that she was going to face Rose Namajunas. That was an interesting matchup. Esparza's honestly an interesting matchup as well, because Esparza actually has a win via Reniki choke over Rose. Again, probably, was that the inaugural UFC?
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Was that the inaugural title fight?
It might have been, because they hinted of doing it again.
Yeah,
soon.
I think,
and that was why they say they brought her in when Rose.
It was a good replacement. I was super happy with the replacement. It's a very light replacement. Esparza was a bit bigger. I think Kelly walks around straight up at 115, and I think Esparza came in at 128, something like that. I'm not sure. But in the middle of the match, Esparza goes to lift and slam.
I don't even know if it's the middle of the match. Like,
this is 428 in, 426 in. Okay. I'm looking at Topology here for results, because I love how they lay out results, and they also have links to everyone's pages. So shout out to Topology for adding grappling cards. Big fan of you guys. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, but the weird thing is the MMA fighters kind of get screwed, because their grappling results are up with their record.
Yeah, but but the record is only MMA.
Is it only MMA?
Yeah, because they also have kickboxing on there. They have boxing on there.
Okay, so they don't get like screwed.
No, the record on the top that's displayed for someone, like, you look at like Gordon is 0-0. Gordon is just 0-0. Because and you show his grappling wins, but not any of his. And I've actually talked to these guys on Topology before and had them like merge certain fighters' pages. When I've looked at results and seen like, oh, this person also has the results over here, and I've emailed them and like, hey, these two are the same person, and they've gone, thank you, and then merged them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of people that curate lists like this, and so when I can help out and reach out and help that community, it's an awesome resource for us on the show. And they have. It's just the website loads well, it's easy to use, and it's good job, Topology. I like you guys. So this match, Carla Esparza is in Danielle Kelly's guard. Carla Esparza goes to lift Danielle Kelly in the guard, and then slams, and then eats it on the face, opens up a big cut under the eye that immediately starts gushing blood, like, aggressively.
All over the place.
All over. Like, it was... she leaking is the, I think somebody said that once. Super bloody. And then I forget who said that. It was on commentary somewhere. And they stopped the match. There was a discussion on like the MMA thread or on Reddit, basically like, hey, why did this?
And Danielle Kelly got quite a knot that grew.
Oh
Like,
yeah, you
even
saw her
before
at the end. It
like,
was like
yeah.
probably a 2-inch lump that was
It was like a baby head that was grown out of her head.
out of her forehead.
Slowly.
There was a big discussion of like, okay, why was this not a no contest? And basically, the funny response was, yeah, this is grappling. There are no contests. And I summarized it like, in grappling, if you do something that results in injury to yourself and you cannot continue, the other person wins. That's the easiest way to summarize this. Esparza went to slam. Whether slams were legal or not, that's still kind of questionable.
Slams are legal. I thought I read
because I've seen there's 2 comments, and Kelly says in one comment on this that they're illegal, and the other comments they're legal. And they both have a bunch of likes on Instagram, so I got confused. But whatever, they didn't call it a legal slam. It was a slam that resulted in a big cut that resulted in Esparza not being able to continue. It was also brought up that it was quite funny that there were no heel hooks.
It just says no slamming in all youth divisions. So, but it doesn't say. It says no slamming or spiking your opponent directly on the back of their head or neck, and no slamming at all in the youth divisions.
Okay, so slams
my
are legal.
Is there. Yeah.
So it was just ironic. I'm not sure if irony is the right word here. That there were no heel hooks for fighter safety, and then there's a slam that ends the main event in a cut. Again,
it's a really bad cut too.
Really bad. Like again, the doctor walks over and you see the doctor, and then they pan to the cut, and you go, "Yeah, the doctor should stop this cut." Should stop this match because it is a very large cut that you're not going to be able to stop. And again, for Esparza's career, you want to get that stitched up quickly so that it doesn't scar because it's a facial cut, and so those tend to open up with strikes and punches. You know, that's potentially a career limit. I mean, we know plenty of guys that
that have
a lot that like will open up really easily, and it can stop fights. The Diaz brothers are notorious for it.
Thankfully my forehead cut has not opened back up at any point, which is good.
I have some of the eyebrows, but they tend to they were done well, so they tend not to open up either, which is nice. I haven't had it open up in honestly a couple of years, which has been very, very nice. So that was the main event. Other results on the card. Anything else on the main event you want to talk about?
No, that was about it.
It ended in some weirdness, and that's about it. Let's see. We had Renato Moicano took on Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper, again, people know him for being a very, very good grappler, but I was really impressed here with Moicano because Moicano just consistently put pressure on, looked to pass, and like never let Hooper open up at all. Like he just kept Hooper on the bottom, kept him like pressured down, and just showed like why he's really, really good. I think Moicano is he a 45er now? I always blank on what Moicano is.
The match was at 170.
He's a 55er. Yeah, Moicano's a 55er in the UFC. Really, really good grappler. So that was the match. Again, it's cool to see 2 UFC fighters, Hooper and Moicano, go at it. Moicano just consistently had great top pressure and didn't ever let Hooper like open up to start playing his game, which I thought was good tactical. It was tactically a good decision to make. Next match, we had Hakeem Silva defeating Neo Magny via Neo Magny single-legging into a guillotine. Nope, was that?
Yeah.
That was that match, right?
Yeah, that was
that match. I think
it happens sometimes.
It does happen sometimes. Magny snatches up a snatch single from the outside, and then Silva goes, yeah, I'm going to jump this guillotine, and then does jump that guillotine, gets nice and high on it, gets tight on it, and finishes Magny. That was all that happened in the match. 247. Any other takeaways there, Miranda?
Nope, that was it.
We had...
At least try guillotines, that's about it. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to go down, at least try to grab their neck when you go down.
Yeah. He had a head on the outside, I think, which is the problem here.
Okay.
We had John Purseman versus Philip Rowe. We've seen Philip Rowe versus Gordon Ryan versus... I forget who else he's gone against.
He was on Sug? Was he on Sug?
He went on... He was versus Gabriel Checo. He also
Okay.
he was seen versus Cody Steele on Who's Number One.
Yeah.
He went against Jonathan Purseman, was controlled for the entirety of the match, wasn't submitted,
Yes.
but really dominantly controlled for the entirety of the match. If we're going to see more of Philip Rowe on these events, I would love to see them. I'd love to see them match him more appropriately, because we're seeing him on these events. He obviously wants to grapple. I just would love to see him with a more appropriate level grappler, especially because he's a very, very good MMA fighter. He's in the UFC. I'm just curious the matchmaking here. So, but again, props to Jonathan Purseman. Looked good, looked dominant on top the entire time. Consistent offense, looking for the back, looking for the top position, and gets it. Next match, we had Alex Caseres defeating Eddie Torres. I like Alex Caceres. I've been following his career for a very, very long time. I've been following him since he fought for Dada 5000 in the backyard in Miami.
Oh, wow.
A very, very long time.
That was before the Fighter House, right? Because that had to been before.
Oh yeah, that was
pre-amateur.
That was like just backyard fights. Caceres was this.
Dude, there's a website of like West Virginia backyard fights that I watch sometimes. That's hilarious.
It is.
I have a good time watching it.
Yeah, he was just this tall, lanky kid, and he triangled some guy on grass, and I went, that was a really good triangle, actually. And later he would go on to fight in the UFC, and I was like, that's the guy. It was cool.
Has he always had the hair?
Always had the hair.
He
hasn't always had the hair, but it's most forever. He's been Bruce Leroy.
Yeah.
He gets a Reniki choke win over Eddie Torres here pretty quickly, 235.
Yeah.
Caceres has always been a really lanky monster grappler. He throws the boots and throws the hooks in really well. He turns his hips over to the back. Like, he just is a very good, dynamic, scrambly grappler. I think it's on like a 5-fight win streak, which is the biggest win streak in a while.
Yeah. He has really good movement. I mean, his scrambles are amazing. He always gets to where he needs to be.
That's what always has impressed me with Caceres.
Yeah.
It's just the scrambles and like his ability to scramble, and then lock down a position and get your back, or like lock up a choke or lock up a sub. And that's one thing I do love organizations showcasing MMA guys, is because they tend to lock up, like they scramble really fun, and then they lock up stuff super quickly. There's not usually like a whole lot of grinding to their subs. It's usually like we scramble, I stop, I lock something up, and I finish.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I like that style of grappling. That's the style of grappling that I kind of initially came from and started watching.
Yeah.
And it's fun to watch. Alex Caceres gets it done here. Would love to see him. I think we've seen him on a couple grappling cards. So again, might see more of these.
Yeah, he would be fun. He would be fun to have on Fight to Win and have have him go against some fun grapplers.
Is he a black belt? Do you know?
I just pulled him up. I'm looking. He is. Does not say.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think he's a black belt, but always fun. Alex Caceres is always fun to watch on a 5-fight winning streak. It's been fun to watch his dips, and now finally him being on a great streak has been fun. Next we had Cody Hamron defeating Kevin Holland via decision. Not a lot happened in the match. Cody was on top, pressuring Holland most of the match, and gets the decision. Pretty clear decision. Same thing with Andrei Petroski versus Philip Haas. Controls top pressure on the match. Wrestling for most of it.
Yeah.
A couple moments here and there that were in Andrei's favor, and gets it done. Anything else on that?
No, that was basically what happened. It was an MMA match on the ground.
Pretty much, yep.
Yeah.
We have Jillian Robertson defeating Chrissy Briggs via decision. Again, Robertson looked good, controlled. This is the match that I opened up the card with, and I thought it was a very fun one to open up.
Super tight rear naked chokes on Chrissy, and props to Chrissy for fighting through all of them.
Yeah, there's I think two that were like really deep, and I was impressed that she was able to like turn out and get through.
Yeah, but she showed. I mean, she was dominant the entire time. She did really well with all of her transitions. She had control the whole time. Chrissy didn't really have an ability to get out once she kind of got sucked in by Jillian.
No, it was Jillian very much in the driver's seat, just consistently looking good. Again, Jillian's a really good competitive black belt that we see featured on. I think we saw her on SUG. Did she go against Amanda Lowen on SUG?
Yeah, she did. She
Yeah.
did. And she also has the most MMA wins. Is it the most submission
wins? Yeah,
in the UFC?
I think in the strawweight division, or I think that's correct.
I thought it was in the women's division.
Maybe it's the women's division. I thought that was still Rousey, but I could be wrong. I'm looking up to see to pull up her record here. I'm not sure. Yeah, we see her on SUG pretty frequently. We've seen her versus Pearl Gonzalez. We've seen her versus Raquel Canuto. We've seen her versus Caitlin Chikagian versus Nikki Sullivan.
Robertson is now she has the most submission wins in the women's UFC. She just broke the tie of Rousey and Rose recently.
Got it. Yeah. Again, very fun. It's been fun to watch her continue to grapple. Gets a nice win here on Fury. I assume that we're going to see her on SUG again. She was just on SUG like 4 months ago.
Okay.
And then 3 months before that, and then 1 month before that. So I assume we're going to continue to see her on SUG because she just has a recent win over Caitlin Chikagian.
I like the fact that they're allowing the UFC fighters to take these grappling events.
They always have allowed UFC fighters to take grappling events.
Did they just not do it as much in the past?
There wasn't. I mean, how many grappling events were there? I mean, Metamoris was the big one, and that was Joe Lozon versus Dylan Dennis, but like it was a big deal. A lot of people when they leave, there wasn't a big professional grappling scene. We've seen Dorino fight on Polaris. We've seen
True, and that is one thing
Davi Ramos.
That COVID actually did bring us was almost a better setup for a lot of things. Because I feel like Fight to Win definitely took off when COVID started. Because they were the only people that were going on, so they had 1 million events.
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of these events actually, did well because we were all stuck at home and needed something to watch and do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting. Definitely an interesting time. Again, I would love to see. I think I liked a lot of the matchmaking here on Fury because they matched up people that were very, very similar. A lot of good MMA fighter matchups here that were fun. Again, I would love to see more grappler versus grappler matchups. If you're going to have guys like Craig Jones on here versus Nicky Rod on here, Danielle Kelly on here, I think there's more interesting matchups to make in the grappling scene for them. But I love the name recognition that a lot of the UFC fighters and Bellator fighters brought onto this card because it was fun. It gave us a bunch of people that we don't get a chance to talk about that are very established in MMA and very good fighters a chance to show off their grappling and honestly to improve their grappling because a lot of people talk about, competing actually makes you a lot better. And you'll see fighters not infrequently, especially early in their career, jumping into local grappling tournaments just to kind of test things out and get that feel for competition. I think Sean O'Malley did it a while ago and he ran a Deagle out of grappling industries. But guys do that, and John Jones did a Naga early in his career. Khabib's done Nagas. Guys will do it occasionally to just test things out to make sure what is working in the room.
Sometimes they do, works. And sometimes they do IBJJF events too.
Yeah.
Because was it Ben Henderson used to do?
Yep,
I think it was
Henderson
Ben
used
Henderson.
To do them.
He used to do them. There's a couple females that do. What's her name? There's a female out of Virginia that was a Olympic wrestler that is in the UFC roster that does the IBJJF events all the time.
I'm blanking. I know who you're talking about. I'm blanking.
You know who I'm talking about?
I do know who you're talking about. I can't picture.
Because it kind of scares me because she's also a purple belt, and she would be a weight class above me, and I was like, oh, that would be round one.
Start cutting weight.
Gonna see what happens. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I got nothing to promote for it. Again, this was a fun card. I like that Fury ran it on a week. There wasn't a whole lot else going on. They had great name recognition on the card. They had fun matchups. Would like to see the rules modified a little bit, but overall, 2.5 hours for a card. Nail on the head. Very fun Thursday card to watch. You and I watched it live and texted back and forth the duration of it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
it was good.
Any thoughts that you have for it?
No, I mean, it was nice. It was nice with the, like you said, with the name recognition. It definitely brought a lot of probably newer faces into watching it and attending it than before. And that's always a good thing, is to have more people see grappling and not just think it's some kind of boring, two sweaty dudes rolling around on the ground. So
break the stigma
I think events like this do good for just the whole sport of grappling, in general. The heel hook rule definitely is interesting. I understand why they're doing it, but it is. But you can heel hook in the UFC, so you can heel hook in a fight, but you can't heel hook in a. Yeah.
It seems like an old holdover rule. But again,
I think it's a Cub Swanson rule.
Yeah, we talked about this too.
Blew his knee, and because of that, we'll just call it the Cub Swanson rule.
Yeah. So that's that. So Fight to Win has an event this weekend. Fight to Win 190 in Dallas, Texas. We have a card for it that is on the Fight to Win Instagram. That's no place else. It also has the matchups.
It's actually on the page, the Fight to Win main page.
Okay.
Like their website. If you go in and you click on the event, it comes up. Because I was looking there as you were talking to see if it said where you could watch this thing, but we don't know how to watch it unless you're in Texas.
Right. So we have for the main event, we have Miko Morez versus Sam Nagai.
What? How did you pronounce that first name?
I pronounced it wrong, Miranda. Why you got to call me out?
It's like Ed Meekin. Ed Meekin.
We've done it. We've pronounced it before. I'm trying to get Morales. We have Morales versus Sam Nagai. Sam Nagai is a very heavy favorite here, which wouldn't surprise me at all. And the guy has looked very, very good on Fight to Win. I assume this is in the gi. I assume that this is for the title that Sam Nagai currently holds.
I don't know if it's it doesn't say if it's on the gi.
I assume it's gi. And the guy has the title in the gi right now. The initial promotion picture that came up was when Morales had the title a couple years ago, and they were both gi pictures.
Is of them both in the gi.
Yeah.
The ads they're running have them both in their gi.
So I would assume it's a gi match. We have a bunch of other matches on the card. You can find it here online. Miranda, do you have it up? You want to go through some?
Yeah. So we'll start at the beginning. So we have Mark Botandari versus Marcio Pires. And then Mike Anderson versus Garrett Andrews. Christopher West versus Keith Miner.
That should be a fun match. I haven't seen Keith in a little bit. He has one hand.
Oh, okay.
He's got a really nice guillotine, and it's always very, very fun to watch.
Is he the guy that has he has more than a hand missing? He has a
he has a forearm, like a piece of his forearm missing as well.
I've seen him, and all he has is really this really crazy guillotine.
Yes, and it's fun to watch because he jams in the section of his arm that he does have remaining into the neck while he does the short arm guillotine, and it's just beautiful to watch. We covered him a lot. Yeah, we covered him a lot. I think in 2018 into 2019, he was on Fight to Win on the main events and on cards frequently. Haven't seen him in a little bit, but it's cool because again, I'm a guillotine guy and I absolutely love watching him throw that guillotine because it's so unique.
I want to say he was on a card a little bit ago because I think I was watching it and I remember watching it from Pittsburgh or some random. I was on the road for work or other randomness, and I remember seeing him because I didn't know he was missing a hand. And then all of a sudden I'm watching this match and I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And,
it throws you off if you don't look for it.
You've been drinking a little bit, so you don't really know what you're looking at, and it gets complicated. But anyway.
So it should be a fun card.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a couple more. We have Antonio Cerrone versus Thompson Marcano. Douglas Frey versus Mark Francis Cody. And Emilio Hernandez versus Aleph Silva, and that's your black belt registry.
Should be fun. I'm curious to see. I hope it is streamed. I'm assuming we're going to be able to cover it this following week. I'm assuming that, but I don't know. So if you actually do know where you can watch the event or how you can watch the event, please let me know. That'd be awesome. Again, we've covered the last 130 Fight to Wins. I would love to continue to cover them. 130 Fight to Wins. I would love to continue to cover them. I just don't know where to watch it yet. So, Miranda, I don't anything else coming up, do you?
No. In Risen, they had that nice arm bar. They had a flying arm bar.
You and I watched. You caught Risen or Ryzen?
Is it Ryzen or is it Risen?
I've called it Ryzen for like the past couple of years, but I'm wrong about many of things.
I don't know. Maybe it's Ryzen.
Yeah, that was
I
fun.
pronounce things wrong all the time.
That's one of my bucket list items is to go to Japan and see the New Year's Eve Pride show.
We talked
it's
about
Ryzen
this last.
now, but
We discussed this last week.
on the show.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Because I realized as we were in the middle of the show, I realized it was going on, and I started talking about it, and we like went off on some tangent
as we do.
Ryzen for a minute.
So
anyway,
yeah, that's my thing. They have now run as many events as Pride ran. So super happy that they're continuing to go. They have a great roster. They have a lot of fun matches. You should go and find some of them.
Yeah, hopefully, the world will get back to the normal way, and they can have people outside of Asia come and do their tournaments.
Yeah.
Because I always liked seeing like the guys that kind of fell off the UFC roster and then show up and do like 135 pound tournament over there.
And then show up like, oh, you're still really good. Oh, and soccer kicks and stomps are legal.
Yeah.
There was a stomp finish this weekend, which was always fun. You don't see those very often in really anything outside of Japan nowadays.
Yeah.
I think because ONE FC stopped them a couple years ago. But I love this.
They still do like soccer kicks, right?
No, they stopped soccer. There is, depending on the jurisdiction, depending on the referee and the event.
Yeah.
I think they can still have them, but there's a bunch of them that are gone. Knees to the head of a grounded opponent is there, but they stopped soccer kicks a couple years ago, which I understand, but I do love seeing the open MMA rule set that is in Japan because it opens. You see a lot better grappling and a lot more interesting finishes when guys don't have to engage on the ground in a grappling exchange. They can stomp their way out of stuff, and it just makes for a very interesting dynamic.
And you also have to be aware that you're putting yourself in a shit position and you can get your head stomped in.
Yes, and it's very interesting to see it happen. It happened this weekend. It is unusual, but yeah, watched all the finishes for Ryzen, watched a bunch of the matches, watched a bunch of the K1 matches, and it's probably been down this weekend rabbit hole of Japanese kickboxing and K1 fights that I very much enjoyed going down. So
K1 fights are fun.
They are. You got anything fun planned for the week, Miranda?
I don't think so. Working.
Yeah.
Working.
Same with me. I'm back off this week of vacation, back into work.
It's supposed to freaking snow tomorrow.
Is it here or just where you are?
No, you guys are getting more snow than I am.
Baltimore, why? So, all right.
So, yeah.
So we're going to get snowed in for 2 days, hopefully. Miranda, I got nothing else. You have anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, from the co-host.
Miranda.
And we are the Grappling Ground. To see you on the mat, whatever it is, stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.